Okay, in today's video, we're going to be looking at engraving on some solid wood. And here's a piece of melamine. This is a sample medium-sized cabinet part. And as you can see, without the vacuum, there was no suction. Now we've turned the vacuum on. We'll go ahead and drop this cabinet part back onto the table. And as you can see, it immediately secures to the table, even though the entire spoil board is wide open. We've got another small piece over here that also has some edge banding on it, so it's not perfectly flat. It moves a little bit at first, but then secures to the table as well. Again, even though the entire table is leaking. However, this solid piece of redwood doesn't hold down at all. Now, it may seem flat or look flat. It was chainsaw milled, but it's got bark on it, and it's just not a man-made flat surface. So it's not going to seal properly. It's not going to stick to a spoil board, even with the high-quality vacuum pump. But there is a way we can hold this part down, and it only takes just a few minutes. There's lots of options when it comes to fixturing. In fact, we've got some other videos. I'll link them below if you want to check those out. But in this case, we're just going to use this extra area because we have a 5x10 table. We've got 2 feet up front. We don't even need to remove the spoil board. We're just going to take some spare vacuum gasket and zone off an area right in the middle. Okay, now that we have that complete, we've got ourselves a little zone of vacuum gasket in this grid. We can pull these 2 plugs in this area out. And now we're going to have direct vacuum right to this solid wood. Because we have that gasket around, it's going to hold that air in place. We've got a nice seal. Even though we have a complete open spoil board, it's still plenty of vacuum to hold this piece of solid wood down with direct vacuum. And it just took us a minute or two to set up. And if you watch closely right here when the vacuum turns on, you can actually see that redwood drop just a hair. Now it's completely stuck to the table. There's no moving this. It is there, it's stuck. And now we just need to finish setting up our machine and we can go ahead and cut this file. Okay, we're doing a quick tool change. We're putting away tool number 3. We're going to grab tool number 5. That's going to be the engraving tool we're going to use for this job. Because we just put this tool on the machine for the first time, we're going to go ahead and do an automatic tool calibration as well. When we're doing an automatic tool calibration, the machine's going to go take tool 5 and do a double drop down on the calibration device, which is going to input that tool's length into the controller's memory permanently, and that's going to stay there until I change that tool out again. Then I like to watch just to make sure everything happens as it's supposed to. As you can hear, that dust collection is definitely on in the background. If you're wondering why it's on and we're not cutting yet, the reason is I've got all this excess 4-inch duct hose. If I don't have the dust collector on, that's all going to sag down and hang low and get in the way and actually interfere with the tool changer and the gantry of the machine. With the dust collection turned on, it sucks all that excess hose out of the way. I need all that extra length so I can reach the corner of this 5x10 table. Okay, we are here in EnRoute, and it is Halloween. We're going to try to get this video uploaded today, but we're running short on time. So we're going to do a single take, so please forgive any mistakes, and we'll just keep on going. Now, this is where all the designs start in EnRoute on the computer. If you want your own EnRoute subscription, just click the link below in the description. That really helps. Thank you so much. As far as the design goes, you have some options. We can go to File and Import, and we can import a whole bunch of design file types. You can see here Adobe Illustrator, AutoCAD, DWG, DXF, the list goes on and on. For 3D files, STL, 3DS. So you can bring in a design that somebody's already designed, and then we can work with that, or you can just design your own from scratch. So today we're just doing, you saw the big nice chunk of redwood. We're just going to do a nice carving, a 3D carving. So we're going to do that real quick. And to start, we need some text. So if you go to Draw menu, you can grab some text. And at this point, you just have a couple of choices here. What kind of font do you want? Now, when it comes to fonts, EnRoute is just looking at whatever fonts are actually on your PC. And if you hit the arrow button like I'm doing now, you can get a kind of a quick preview of all the different fonts you have here. So you can make a whole bunch, check them out. Now, to be honest, EnRoute doesn't know what font you're choosing, so it's not necessarily approved for engraving. So you might pick something a little wild that crosses over itself, that has double lines, and again, there's no guarantee that's going to carve well. But I always end up going to my default, which is Bookman Old Style. If I'm doing something for myself, or if somebody's asking for a recommendation, a lot of times I'll do this. And then we simply type out what you want. Software. And again, Bookman Old Style, it's a neat little font, but yet it's clear and crisp. And it does really well for engraving, which you're going to see here in a minute. So I just like it, whether it's uppercase or lowercase. I love these letters, and again, they engrave nice and clean, and I don't usually have to worry about it or clean them up. At this point, we can change size. A couple ways to do that. You can do that freehand, and if I hold the Shift key, it's going to keep the proportion. So I can come in here real small, or I can go much larger. If I want to dial in a specific height or length or width, I can do that too. And again, I can hit F2 and bring in my Precision Input Center. That's the old school way of doing it. And the other way is I can go to Transform and click on Scale. And so you see now here they've got this drop down on the bottom that gives you all the different things that you can do. So either way, whatever you're comfortable with, if you keep proportional on here or up here, you're going to keep the proportion. So if I change just the one, let's say the height of the letter to 4 inches, let's say, it automatically changes this to 77 to match so that your proportion is the same. Let's take that down to 2.5 and click OK. There you go. So once I have the layout I wanted, for this example, this is a sign that points to an address, has their name on it, and has a little arrow here, which is cool. If you've got the design you want, now it's time to toolpath. But let's quickly show you how that arrow works. If we look down here, I'll just move this over a little bit. You will have a drop-down box with all your different shape wizards on here. And we'll just choose that first one, which happens to be an arrow. And it's going to throw it right here in the lower left of my plate, which happens to be right near my text, but that's okay. From here, this is a little arrow wizard. So we can actually change, and it's a live change of the position of where it's going. So maybe if I back that up and I go negative off the plate, now it's a little clearer. You can see that. And then we've got height of the tail, height of the head, and you can just modify that however you want that arrow to be. Now, the neat thing about this little macro here, this parametric programming, is that we don't have to worry about drawing this. So imagine drawing it, not liking it, and you've got to increase this width or increase this line and then increase that line, and you've spent 20 minutes trying to draw an arrow, where in this one, you can pretty much make all these adjustments on the shape of this thing, and when you're done, click apply, and you've spent maybe a minute or so making that arrow, and you're done. For this one, I just rotate it. Again, you can go into transform and rotate, or we can hit F2, again, the old school method, rotate and put in 90 degrees there and click OK a couple of times, or we could have done 180 one time. And now I've got the arrow pointing to the left if that's what your design calls for. So again, that's how to do that. Now for creating a toolpath, pretty simple. We're going to go to toolpath and we're going to say engraving. Our text will now be converted to curves. It's got to be converted to curves in order to toolpath it, and that's okay. So we're going to say yes. Once you do convert it, you can't go back and change the spelling or spacing using the text tool because it's no longer considered text. It's now just a drawing or part of your design. So just be aware of that. But we're going to hit OK or yes. And now we're in the toolpath area. I'm going to click on my 3787 tool. That's a 90-degree conic from EnRoute. It's a 1.5-inch width, really nice tool. And then I put in a width. And for this one, I'm going to do 0.375, 3/8 of an inch. We got 1 inch material. I'm going to choose 3/8 of an inch. And once we have the toolpath, I'll explain a little bit about what this depth means. And we're going to have a 3D engraved toolpath. And again, I'll explain that a little bit. But what that means is that's going to go in and pull out in all the corners, give it a nice beveled look, and make it look like that is three-dimensional coming off that material. As always, in here, we're going to have to do our feeds and speeds. So I'll just throw some stuff in here for the sake of time. And click OK. Takes just a few seconds, and that is Done. You can see what that looks like here. If I do F9, that's a painted view, so it paints in those letters. You can see all those letters were large enough to get the tool inside there. And then, if I want, I can grab a box. I can draw a box around the EnRoute, and we can do a 3D rendering of just that particular portion. Click OK, click play, turn the light on. And then I can arrange this a little bit while it's rendering here. And we can see how that looks. Really neat. And this is a pretty good rendering of how this is going to turn out. So if there's any high spots or spots the tool didn't catch, you can kind of see that before you've cut into your material, which you can't really undo. You'd have to get a new piece of material. And today, most material is fairly expensive, so we don't really want to waste material. So anytime we have a chance to check the material out beforehand and see what it's going to do, that's great. And if I want, I can do my final project here and see that one in 3D as well. And I can actually even put in here some red oak, simulate the material, bump this up to 150 dpi, click OK, click play, click the light bulb. And that just took about 5 to 7 seconds. And now we can come in here and you can see again how that's going to look. So if you're happy with that, we can move forward. This one's really nice. The arrow, just because of the width of it, has some area that's raised in here, but that's okay. That's still going to look good. And I'm not worried about that. But that's what that 1-inch piece of redwood is going to look. Pretty nice. Now we said we were going to talk about the depth. So if we look down here, there's one spot that's actually going 3/8 of an inch deep. If you look at the 3/8 bar over here, it's right there. And here's this line. The rest of this stuff is all, you know, not even quite a 1/4 inch. So I put in 3/8, but my actual design is only going to be about a 1/4 inch deep in most areas. So why is that? Well, the way that 3D carving works is it takes the tool shape, and then dependent on the width of the actual letter, that's how far down that tool is going to be able to go. Because if we were going to go a true 3/8 deep on this letter M, for example, that tool would have to go even deeper than it's going now, which would make these sides wider. It would come outside of the bounds of what you drew or your design. So in order to stay within the bounds of the design, it has to limit that depth to approximately 0.2 or 0.25. And again, that's going to change depending on how big the area is. So in this area here, probably a little deeper. And in this area here, much deeper. We're able to get to the full 3/8 inch depth. So keep that in mind when you're doing 3D engraving, that the actual physical depth is going to be dependent on your design and the width between spacing here, how that tool is constrained. Because it is not going to allow that tool to go so deep that its edges and sides of a conical shaped tool would be coming out of the edges of your design. It just wouldn't look right. So it limits that depth based on the width of the tool and the constraints of the letters or whatever shape you're engraving. So hope that makes sense. Now that we have everything we need here, all we have to do is get rid of the stuff that's not our design. We can just delete all that out. And again, decide if we're going to surface at top of plate or surface at bottom of plate. If we're doing top with a 1-inch thick, then we are good to go. And we can simply go to machining and output, create that output file, and then go run that on the machine. Now that we've got the materials set up and the design and EnRoute finished, all we need to do now is set up our origin. So that's just going to be where we put our 0, 0 on this machine. We're going to call this origin 2. And we're just going to change the current location of X and Y to 0, 0, click OK, and that's basically done. And if we want to do a user assigned offset, (2), enforce that, we can see that on the controller, so we've applied our origin 2. So we can see that our X and Y is at 0, 0. That's the corner, the upper left corner of our material. And now the setup is complete. Now typically it's going to be in the corner of your spoilboard, but we're doing a custom setup. That's why we're changing our 0, 0 to the corner of our material. Now we're picking our file, we're activating it, we're going to put it in auto mode, and then cycle start will begin the file. Okay, now we're ready to begin. I'm going to go ahead and hit that cycle start here in just a second. But I've also dialed this down to about 20 or 30% of current speed, program speed. And the reason I do that, it's the first time I've run this machine. So I'm going to put the brushes up, and I'm also going to run it super slow, so we're going to crawl over. And what I'm watching on the controller is I'm looking at those Z values as it comes down. If it's going to the correct Z value, as it's approaching the top of this wood, am I approaching Z0? And then as soon as it makes the first couple of seconds of cut, I've verified that the depth is correct. It's not going to dive too deep or stay up too high. Then I can go ahead and dial that back up to a more normal speed and see how it looks. I also have full control of the dust brushes, so I can move those up and down as desired. And for nice big heavy cuts, you want those brushes down and collecting all of those chips and getting those off the table. But I also want to leave them up when I'm doing videos like this so you can see what it looks like when it's cutting. Also, on these new, nice, long, fresh brushes we've installed, I don't have a control mechanism installed right now where I can stop them at a certain height. You can simply put some round C-clamp collars on the top of those two cylinders, and you can set those wherever you like. That'll prevent that dust shroud from going down all the way. Or you could also just have longer tools. Because this is such a short tool, it's really pushing my brushes into that wood. So long term, if I'm going to run tools this short, I definitely want to put some collars on those two shafts and prevent that from going down that far. But this looks great. I'm loving what we're seeing here, and it's making really quick work of this engraving. Now in this angle we can see it a little better, but when we click on that 3D engrave in EnRoute, what we're doing is it's calculating these paths and pulling out in every single corner so that it gives you that nice beveled look on the edges. One last quick thing before we get out of here. If you enjoy this content, if you like these walkthroughs, these tutorials, where we show different applications on our CNC routers, please hit the like button, and if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. As we continue to grow this channel, that enables us to continue to do more and to show more, bring in more equipment, and also make more video content for you. Thanks so much. I wasn't sure about this shot. We actually have the camera sitting on the bed of the CNC router. So if there's a lot of noise or vibration, that would transfer to the camera. But this machine is so smooth, I was shocked when we watched this video back, and it looks perfectly fine. You wouldn't be able to tell the actual camera is sitting on the bed of the machine right now. I never put a clamp here where the dust hose connects to the dust shroud, because I can just take this off easily, and look how quickly we can clean up all this dust that we missed when we had the brushes up for the camera shots. And we can keep this bed nice and clean, and look at that finish. We love how this turned out. Again, another very nice piece, solid redwood on the CNC router. Thanks for watching.